Are you ready to find peace in the chaos this summer? Introducing Steadfast, the student's guide to battling anxiety. Well, hello, friends and family. Welcome back to Fearless Tips and Talks. My name is Christy Boulware. I have Reid Comp in the studio today. We are in the Steadfast Series. This is a student's guide to anxiety. And Reid is the first boy that I've got in the studio for this amazing series that we're running. Reid is going to be a junior. Is that correct? That puts you at 16. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And Reid is a pastor's kid. They call those PKs. Right? Yeah. To an amazing family in our community, in a local church in our community. And I just want to say that when I sat down to pray and ask God, who should I interview for the series? Reid was one of the very first people that came to my mind. He is a family friend, has been an incredible friend to both of my boys, and we just really love him. He has the heart of Jesus, and we're just so thankful to pick his brain today and get inside of some of the things that you know and understand about the epidemic of anxiety that's happening and that students are facing. So Reid, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to know, anxiety for boys, depression for boys is so different than what girls experience. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what do you feel like have you ever experienced an anxiety? What does it look like in your life?
So for me personally, I struggle with like thinking I'm good enough. So like just self-worth.
What does that look like in sports and school? Yeah. If with girls, like, I mean, how does not feeling good enough look like?
So I think sports plays a big role in it actually. Just like, just wanting to perform to the best of your ability. And just like, I think parents, they want their kids to be the best versions of themselves. And, that's not a bad thing whatsoever. But I think that does put a little bit of pressure on the kids just to perform to their best abilities. And like it's okay if you're not the best at a sport. You're not going to be Michael Jordan or LeBron James. But yeah, I think just thinking that you're good enough when it comes to sports, when it comes to, you know, grades. I think school plays a big role in it too. Just like thinking that you're smart enough. Because, I mean, God gives you different abilities and talents, and sometimes algebra isn't one of them, you know? So that's been something in my life, just like, you know, just trying to find those abilities and skills that I am good at, that God gave me, and just realizing that I'm not going to be the greatest at everything I do.
If it's self-worth, like, do you get into this rhythm of like thinking bad things about yourself and then you isolate? Like, what does it look like?
So, me, I didn't necessarily isolate, but like I could be in a room full of people and I'd still feel alone. Just because like I didn't think anybody necessarily understood my pain and where I was coming from. So, yeah, just like growing up, I was bullied a lot, just like, because at a young age I was like super small and short. I was a short kid, and then once I hit that growth spurt, like I'm an Indiana boy, so I got big, and I came to Missouri, and all my friends are like short and smaller than me, so I got bullied for being the bigger guy, and you know, just.
So you can't win. Bully for being small, bully for being tall.
Right.
Now.
And I got that for a long time. And I think that had a huge role in like my depression and me feeling like I'm not good enough just because, I mean, I can't help it, you know?
Right. What advice would you give to somebody that is being bullied? I mean, I think guys in general are mean to each other. They just say, oh, we're just, you know,
tough love.
Yeah. But I mean, some of the things that I see in group chats and things that are being said, even out, you know, in sports, I mean, it's just downright mean things that are being said. Yeah. And you can be all the tough you want, but hearing these things, it hurts. It truly hurts. So how did you get through that? What did you do?
I think just finding your group of people that, leads you toward God, and just finding those friends that accept you for who you are, and like you're going to be good at different things, and those people, just finding those people that, your abilities and and thoughts like kind of mesh together, and like that creates a good friendship. And once you build off those friendships, it's a lot easier to fit in, or it's a lot easier to feel like you're fitting in. But like Nolan, he was one of those friends for me. Just, yeah.
Oh, well, that's going to make me cry. Well, because here's the thing. I don't think that boys in particular, but especially your Gen Z, they don't really know how to have authentic friendships. Everything is behind a screen, right? And it you can snap whatever you want to snap, text whatever you want to text. Yeah. But when it comes to actually sitting down and having eyeball to eyeball conversation with people, and particularly dudes, like I don't know that they talk about emotions and things and the hard stuff. But the truth is y'all have emotions. You have things you're struggling with. You have things that hurt your feelings and that are bothering you. But it's like, how do you go first? How do you be a friend that opens up when, you said find the right group of people. Yeah. But like, what if you don't have that?
Yeah. I mean, I think God, he puts those people in your life. And I mean, if you don't necessarily have that right now, you will have that eventually. And, I don't think it's something that you necessarily have to look for. I mean, it came naturally to me. I guess it could be different for some people, just, struggling to find friendships. But I don't know, just if you see somebody sitting by themselves, go talk to them, because you never know who you could be best friends with, And when it comes to like being vulnerable with those friends, I also think it's important to find those friends who, are going through the same thing as you, because like they might not be going through the same thing as you, like the exact same thing, but they might understand where you're coming from. And I think it's important to find those people too.
Absolutely. I imagine being a PK kid in a public school setting, now you're in a homeschool setting, but that wasn't easy. And I always talk to my kids about staying on the narrow road, and that's often lonely. And sometimes it's not easy. Our heart in this podcast series is that Christianity is the best thing that you could ever be a part of. Yeah. And I think sometimes, especially with your generation, people look at Christians as being like super weird or judgmental or, no fun. What would you say? Let's just talk about being a PK kid and what that looked like, and how you've journeyed through, telling people about your faith and the role of faith in your life.
Yeah. So just being a pastor's kid, I get labeled that as like in public, just like with my public school friends, they'd all call me PK. And I think they kind of look at you differently. They look at you like you're different because you're super religious, and you go to church every Sunday, and like I think that's not something to be ashamed of. I think you gotta, you don't necessarily have to make that your personality, but just showing them Jesus, and praying at the lunch table, and just like doing stuff like that. Like in 8th grade, me and Nolan were at the same lunch table, and we actually started praying before our meals, every meal with the boys. It was cool. But
that's awesome.
Just like being that example, it can shine a light where you don't even like know it, And I don't necessarily like looking at it as a religion. I like looking at it as a relationship with God. And so, I mean, back to like, if you don't feel like you have any friends, you do. You have Jesus, and it may take you a little bit longer than everybody else to find your group of people, but like those are worldly friends. Like you're only going to have them for a certain amount of time. You're always going to have Jesus. And so I think it's important to realize that. And I think for me, realizing that it set me free in so many things. Just like feeling that I'm good enough. I got Jesus. He accepts me for who I am any day. And so, yeah, I think that's just super important.
Why do you think your generation is struggling with anxiety so bad? It's everywhere.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think the world is obviously just like an evil place. Like there's so much going on. Like you got like pornography everywhere.
Yeah.
You got that's a huge deal when it comes to like teenage boys is pornography. It's like
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Like you can be scrolling on Instagram and boom,
it's right in front of you.
Right in front of you. And not just pornography, but just like everything is so easily accessible now that we have the internet and now that we have like social medias and stuff. Like you can be scrolling and see a bunch of political stuff.
Yeah.
Like I think politics has a huge role in it too. Just like you gotta feel like you have to pick a side, kind of.
Yeah.
And that kind of just divides people. And so that division, I think it creates kind of an anxiety in people, just like feeling like they have to fit a certain mold and
sure.
I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
that makes sense to me. I mean, it's very divisive right now. And where are the days where, you could just have a civil conversation with someone about maybe something you don't necessarily agree with, but you love them enough to hear their side or to wonder, why do you believe what you believe, and honor the person in front of you instead of cussing them out and telling them that they're crazy or stupid or whatever. Yeah. I think you're right. I think politics plays a huge role. I think the pornography is something that, as a mom who, I don't think about that very often. And it's honestly a conversation I had with Nolan not too long ago, because I've been so naive to think that it's just not a big deal, but I think it is a big deal. And I wonder, how do people that are trying to stay pure protect themselves from that temptation?
I think it's important to set boundaries for yourself.
Okay.
Like I've struggled with that kind of stuff for quite some time, and eventually I found some accountability. And, getting that accountability software just like on my phone, just like it notifies my youth group leader, like if I'm like looking at anything. And so like just having that accountability and having those people you can go to who don't like shame you for what you've done, but like are there with you, like who can pray for you. And like, if I'm ever feeling tempted, I know I can give them a call, like even if it's at like 3 a.m.
Sure.
So like, again, I think it circles around to having those relationships with people who can like hold you accountable. And I mean, if you don't necessarily have those people, I think it's important to reach out.
I think, well, first of all, thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for being honest about that. And I love that your youth group leaders have rallied behind you. I'm pretty sure we're going to get a question about what is the software. Do you remember what the name of the software is that you utilize?
Accountable to You.
Okay. I'll try to link that in the show notes so anybody that's hearing that can grab that as well. I think anxiety will surface when you're holding a sin in or something you are ashamed of that you are not being honest about. And that could be anything. It could be porn. It could be drinking. It could be vaping. It could be doing things, with the opposite sex that you shouldn't be doing before marriage. I mean, anything that you're walking in that you shouldn't be doing, if you don't let that out, it is going to cause anxiety. And so I wonder, until you were honest about the things that you were struggling with, did it feel like darkness? Did it feel like I got to tell somebody this, or or did you feel ashamed? What did that look like? Yeah,
there was a lot of shame that, had to play in my depression, just feeling like like done something and can't be forgiven.
Oh,
Just because, I mean, that's obviously not true.
no.
But just, you know, having that like hole in my heart that I didn't know how to fill, and like when you go to pornography and drinking or smoking or whatever like that, whatever
You choose.
whatever you do, yeah. But like when you go to stuff like that, like immediately after, at least for me, immediately after I would go to that, I would feel shame and guilt and regret. And I think that's a good thing in a way, to feel that conviction, because you know you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And you know God's telling you, you know, this isn't right. And so that conviction is really important, because, you know, like I think is it Paul that says in the Bible that he doesn't do what he wants to do and he does do what he doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
Something like that. But like everybody does that. Everybody has sin in their hearts. And so that's why you shouldn't feel shameful. It's because you as a human, you're going to have sin. And you can always look back to Jesus because he forgives you. Mm-hmm. And that sin, like, you can be washed clean and you can find, you know, rest. You can find rest because of that.
I wonder how many people justify their sin. I'm sure you were tempted to be like, oh my gosh, it's not that big of a deal. This is not that big of a deal. Everybody does this. Right. Everybody around me is looking at this. Or, you know, if you're vaping or if you're whatever, you know, it's like everybody does it. So did you have the temptation to justify it and say this is not that big of a deal?
I think for so long I did that, just justifying it. Like I'm a teenage boy. I'm going to want to look at these things. I'm going to want to, you know. And so that's the devil talking. That's the devil just trying to grab a hold of you. Like my youth leader says, the devil has a hook, and like right then I was hooked. And like the closer you get to Jesus, and like the more accountability you find and the more people you can talk to about it, that's you slowly like wiggling the hook out. Ooh, you know, and that's
a great visual.
Yeah, that's what he said. And so, what was the question again?
No, the temptation to justify what you were doing.
Yeah. So, I think for so long I did that, and just talking to somebody about it, just like lifted the weight off my shoulders. And so, CIY, I didn't know if you were going to talk about that.
Yeah, please do. Tell us where you've just been and what you did.
So the past week I was at a conference in Tennessee at Johnson University, and it's called Christ in Youth, CIY. And so it's basically just a bunch of, you know, Christ followers of my age, like teenagers, and their youth leaders. And it's a great chance for you to like grow in relationships with your youth group. And like with my little small group of boys, our first year, that was the year that kind of just like opened my eyes to, you know, just like sharing my problems. And so that year I ended up, you know, coming out in front of my small group, my struggles with, you know, pornography. And from then on, I've had that accountability. And so for about a year after that, you know, I'd struggle with it, and you know, because it's not going to end just right then and there.
Sure.
Like once, like there's kind of no going back once you do it. I mean, there is, but it takes some time. And so I struggled with that for another year, kind of silently, just because I still felt that shame and stuff. And it wasn't until the next year at CIY, we did this visual thing at the last session we had, and it was dropping the chain. So like everybody lined up and they had their own chains to drop, and it was this visual. It just had this big old chain on this wooden board, and you picked it up and you said a Bible verse, and just like when you were done, you let go of the chain. And it was like, and when I did that, it was just like I was letting go of that chain of, pornography, the chain that, that sin had on me. And so from then on, like, I haven't, felt as shameful for what I've done. Obviously, like, there's still some, like, regret in there.
Sure.
Because, it's just not good stuff. But I think it's vital to drop those chains, because you can't hold on to them forever.
Reid, what I think so beautiful about what you're trying to articulate right now is you are in a safe church culture where even though you're a pastor's kid, right?
Yeah.
You're not perfect. You're a human being. We all make mistakes. We all have hidden sin. We all have things that we struggle with. And I think what's so powerful about your story is that you're unashamed with letting people know you are forgiven.
Right.
You're forgiven by the blood of Jesus. And as far as the east is to the west, you are forgiven. And that's the beauty of serving Jesus. There's no other religion in the world that offers that type of grace and forgiveness. And so whoever is listening to my voice right now, anything that you have been struggling with, any sin that is holding you back, you can be like Reid and drop those chains and have freedom from whatever it is that's bothering you. Because I guarantee you, the sin that you're facing right now that you have in the dark is causing more anxiety and depression in your life. And I have to just wonder if where the deepest part of your depression and possible even anxiety moments was because of the shame that you were carrying of that sin that you were walking through. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for being vulnerable, for saying what you struggle with, and letting people know that it's been a journey, and that because Jesus is so amazing, you are forgiven, and your story will create a ripple effect for more people to be able to stand up. Because if you're a pastor's kid and you can stand up and say, I have struggled with this and I am forgiven, imagine how many more people will have the courage now to stand up and say, I don't want to live that way either. And so just thank you. I'm confident that this is going to bring freedom for so many people.
I hope it does.
Me too. So what did you learn about rest? That was interesting as we were talking, preparing for this. You learned about rest.
Okay, so the theme at CIY this past week was rest. It's called The Rest of Our Lives. And when you think of the term the rest of our lives, you kind of think just like the future and what's ahead. But they focused on like the rest, just like the rest that we can find in Jesus. And we meditated on Psalm 23 all week. I don't know. Can I read that?
Yes, please. That's the walk through the valley, right? Is that one? Yeah. Please read. Please read it.
Okay, so it says, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And so we kind of talked about that psalm, kind of walked through it all week and just broke it down into parts. But just like the peace you can find in Jesus it's so beautiful. And I myself, I'm trying to work on, like having those silent moments where I just kind of sit and I rest, and I rest in those green pastures. And that week we kind of talked about just Jesus being our shepherd, just leading us beside those quiet waters and into those green pastures where we can find rest. And I don't know did you want me to talk about the storms yet, or
you can talk about whatever you want.
Right.
I'm just captivated by. Well, right. I was thinking about something like you being a farm boy from Indiana, right? Like you know what it's like to be by streams. You know what it's like to be in green pastures, right? You know.
Well, yeah. So I was raised in Indiana where, you know, my grandparents had a cow farm, and we'd always just, you know, go out there and do stuff and just, you know, run around in the yard and do stuff like that. And so, yeah, I think I'm not necessarily like a farm boy, but you know, I know what it's like to be out there, and I know what it's like to, you know, be amongst those beautiful, like, natural, you know, things. And I think if you really try hard, if you sit down and try hard enough, you can put your mind into those places. You know, you can find that rest. You can, if you just sit there in the silence and, you know, just listen. I think God has some great things to say to you if you just sit there and listen.
Hey friends, I just wanted to take a moment to interrupt to let you know that the Fearless Tips and Talks podcast is part of a ministry called Fearless Unite. Our mission is to help you find freedom from fear and anxiety in a world that feeds it. We are rolling out a new initiative called Soul Shepherd, which is a mental health advocacy movement in our community. We are very serious about decreasing the mental health crisis that we are facing. And we're going to do this first by starting with teenage girls, one body, soul, and spirit at a time. If you want to learn more about our Soul Shepherd initiative, go to fearlessunite.com/Soul Shepherd. This will also be linked in our show notes. Now, back to the interview. Yeah, I think the imagery of Psalm 23 is something we can all put ourselves into. So as you were meditating on that, thinking about the rest of God, what did he teach you? What did he tell you? What did you walk away with?
So actually, this week at CIY, I kind of tried to focus on God's calling for me. And so sitting down and having that rest and just, you know, trying to listen to what he's saying to me, I kind of felt him calling me towards ministry personally. So I'm super excited about that. I'm kind of just, you know, if you ever feel a calling from God, it's important to lean into it. So I'm just trying to lean into it. And I think this is a great opportunity for, you know, just for me to just speak my words. And I think it's good practice. So I'm super grateful for this as well.
I'm so thankful that you're here and that you said yes. It's not easy to get out here and open your heart to the world. So I think calling and purpose is another really cool thing. I think a lot of this generation feels a little lost. They feel a little wandering. What's really next in life? I think you put so much in high school thinking that high school is the end all be all, and then you graduate and it's like, well, then what, right? And so I think the fact that you're already reflecting and thinking about, what am I here for?
Yeah.
What is my calling? What am I supposed to be doing? I think is great for you to kind of speak out loud, because the reality is when you walk in your calling and you walk in your purpose and you wake up every day knowing that you're here to serve others and to love others and to serve God, it changes everything. Like, it's not about you. We're not here to serve ourselves. We're here to serve God. Right. And we're just passing through, right? You know, heaven is our final home. Right. So what did it feel like to feel that tug of like, I think I'm calling you into ministry? What did that feel like? Did that give you an excitement? Was it scary? What is that like?
I think it is scary to a degree where I don't know where God's going to take me, but that's also exciting in its own way, because, you know, God's taking me somewhere, and God has a purpose for me, and that purpose is great. So, you know, it's super exciting. And I think, you know, with me struggling, feeling like I'm not good enough, like I still struggle with that. And so when I felt that calling, I think the devil was trying to tell me that I wasn't good enough for that calling. And you know, we had like a little like class thing for, you know, it was called So You Want to Go into Ministry. And we kind of walked through, you know, different people in the Bible's callings towards ministry. And we were in Exodus and we were talking about Moses. And when he was called, like when God came to him in the burning bush, he hid his face. Like he didn't think he was worthy of that calling and leading people, towards God. And so, like, if you read Exodus, you see how many times his name pops up and, what he did. And so, God has a purpose for you, and it's great. And, you might not be, splitting seas like Moses, but, you'll be changing people's lives if you, just lean into it. And so I think if God does have a calling for you, it's important not to hide your face, because, you may not have the tools like that's necessary for that calling yet, but you can build those tools. And that's what, education's for. Like, I want to go to, my brother and my sister-in-law both go to Ozark Christian. Mm-hmm. And so I've been kind of like drawn towards that, cause they've had a wonderful experience there. And so I think it's just, we talked about, purpose, and, we had these different like themes throughout the week. The main theme was like the rest of our lives, but we had these little like things we would hit on. Like one of the days was purpose, and another day was posture. And posture is super important, because you want to have a posture that's, open to God, just like, have your way in me, God, and like you have full control. And that takes some time, and that takes a lot of like building of trust. And I don't know. I think
well, posture is so important to overcome pride. And so when you're dealing with anxiety, you're often struggling with pride, because you want to control everything. Right. And so I love that you brought that up, because if we will just enter in a posture of, God, not my will, but your will be done. And whatever it is that you want me to do, I'll do it. But I think so often, especially, at your age, you don't think about like, well, should I ask God about this? It's not that big of a deal. Does God really care? Does God care who I date? Does God care what classes I take? And the reality is he cares about it all. Yeah. But is our posture humble enough to come to him and say, every detail matters, and you care about everything, Lord, so I'm going to ask you about everything. Right. So I think, that's a really great way to look at it. Okay, something just came to my mind. You have pretty much grown up in the faith. Mm-hmm. What about those that maybe just fall upon this because you were vulnerable with some of the struggles you've dealt with, and they're like, I don't even know who God is. I don't even know Jesus. And honestly, anything I know of God or Jesus have been from like some really crappy people that have hurt me or wounded me, this Jesus thing. No, thank you. Because truly it's a pretty godless nation right now, especially with Gen Z. So what would you say to the person that like, is like, no, thank you on Jesus? Yeah.
So, I don't think you're going to find you're never going to find a church where like everybody there is perfect.
Never.
And so, you go back to finding that community that, looks at you as, a son or daughter of Christ, instead of like just somebody that's, gone astray. And if you find those people, it's like, if you build on those relationships, you'll find God where you never thought you'd find him. And, like if you didn't necessarily like grow up in the faith, like I was talking about, it's important to lean on those things that, you do know. And, like you can always go back to the Bible. Obviously, that's like, God gave us the Bible for a reason. Like it may not have been written like or it may not have been written to us, like all the letters and stuff. It was written to people back then, but it was written for us.
It's good.
And so God gave us that as a tool to, grow closer to him and see what God is really like. And this world is filled with so much, evil and just like it's filled with crap, So I think if you look towards the Bible instead of, this world, because this world is so evil. If you look towards the Bible, which shares so much good and so much, like it shows all the miracles that Jesus did. It showed all the miracles that, like people performed through Jesus, and I think it's good to see what God can do just through that. And it may have been like thousands of years ago, but we can still take lessons from those things and apply it to our lives, because if you apply those things to your life, your life will automatically just get better.
I mean, think about it. You were just talking about Moses, and you were saying how he hid his face and he was called into ministry. How many times have you hid your face or felt like hiding your face? And so immediately you were able to see yourself in Moses and apply it to your life. Right. And that's what's the beauty of the Bible. Mm-hmm. It's truth. Yeah. And it's current, it's relevant, it's active, it's mm-hmm. holy, and it will change you from the inside out. Yeah. And it's like, give it a try. Open up the Gospels. Read Psalm 23 like Reid read to us. Just sit there for a moment and say, God, if you're real, help me.
Yeah.
And,
there was a point in my life where I was like, God, show me that you're real. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of I took my Bible and I kind of just opened it to like a random spot, because I didn't necessarily like study the Bible before that. Like I didn't know where anything in the Bible was, and so I opened it to a random spot, and I think it brought me to like Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. And that's such a good thing to go to, because he hits on kind of like, maybe not everything, but he hits on so much. And it was just crazy to see how God took me just randomly opening a place in my Bible and just speaking to me through that. And like if you don't necessarily have to like go searching like super far for God, because he's already there. And he's there in the Bible. He's there like if you listen, he's there when you pray. And he's in the back of your boat, like I was saying earlier, like Matthew 8, talks about Jesus calming that storm. And so they're on a boat in the Sea of Galilee, and this storm takes place, and it's a big storm. Waves are crashing, water's getting into the boat, and they're starting to sink. It may not say all this. I'm just trying to create a visual, but just like all this is happening, and Jesus is in the back of the boat sleeping, and the disciples are like, Master, wake up. And he wakes up and he's like, you've little faith, like, because they didn't have faith in him. They didn't think he could calm the storm, and there's storms in your life that you don't necessarily think will calm, but Jesus is in the back of your boat and he can calm those storms. So
what a beautiful visual that you just set for anyone that's struggling with anxiety and depression, that Jesus is in your boat. He's right there with you. He's never going to leave you. He's never going to forsake you. He has the ability to calm whatever wave or storm that's coming at you. Will you trust him? Will you take a step to just have faith, to believe? And I have to believe, Reid, that your faith is what's gotten you to where you are today, mm-hmm. and how you can sit so firmly and share your faith so beautifully. As we close out, is there anything you didn't get to say that you wish you could say?
I think I hit on most of what I wanted to say, but like if you're out there and you're going through storms, just remember Jesus is in the back of your boat, and he's always been there. Like the disciples, they were on this boat for a while, like going through this storm, and Jesus was there all along, just in the back. And you don't like he's there with open arms, and as long as you put your faith in them, like those storms, that it may take a little longer, but those storms will calm eventually.
I think we overcomplicate our faith sometimes, and you just beautifully articulated that, like, hey, he's in your boat, guys.
He's there.
He's there. Thank you, Reid. How do you feel about praying for our community before we close out?
I would love to. All right. God, thank you for this podcast that I got a chance to be on. Thank you for Christy and all that she's done, just like the work you've done through her. God, I pray for whoever's out there, going through those storms. God, I hope you reassure them. And I pray that you reassure them that, you're in the back of their boat. You can calm those storms. They can put their trust in you and they can find rest because you're there. And in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reid.
Of course.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Fearless Tips and Talks. We hope you enjoyed the insights and advice shared today. If you love what you heard, please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. We'd also really appreciate it if you would take a moment to rate and review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners and continuing to allow us to bring the best content possible to you. Hey, and we want to hear from you. Check out the show notes and use the fan mail feature labeled "Send us a text message" to share your thoughts, ask questions, or let us know what topics you'd like us to cover in the future. Remember, a life of no fear isn't the goal, but you can learn to fear less. We hope this podcast helps you achieve that. See you next time.